have the agenda, and I'll just walk you through here on this. So yeah, you call the meeting in order, and you can have Ellie do a roll call if you want.
Okay, great. Hi, Ellie. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And Ellie, will you do the roll call?
Lloyd.
Here.
Joycelyn. Here. Michael.
Here.
Ron.
Okay, so everyone but Ron, and Ron's ex officio, so we're good. And so then next would be approval of the agenda, which the agenda was sent out. And so so then you'll just want to ask for a motion to approve the agenda in a second.
All right, I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. All right, so the agenda's been approved.
Yeah, and then usually with that, you give people an opportunity if they need to make any sort of amendments or anything. I don't think there is anything to do. Right, and so then it's pro forma because you had Michael and Joycelyn and they moved and seconded. You could assume they're going to vote, but you still have to call the vote.
All right, so we need to have a vote to approve the agenda. All the ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstaining? Okay, it's
Awesome.
approved.
And then next up is technology report and activities. And so at this point, Brian, I've asked Brian to kind of put together what he did on his summer vacation. Actually, it's been longer than a summer vacation.
Right.
But basically to update kind of what's been going on over the last year or so.
Oh, do we need to approve the minutes?
Oh, we do.
Sorry,
I skipped.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
I skipped a step.
Right. So approve the minutes from a year ago, May 17th.
All right.
You all remember those.
Do I have the ayes, please? I'd like to make a vote to approve the minutes.
Motion.
A motion.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
That's
for-
right.
Okay. And now we'll vote on the minutes. The ayes?
Aye.
Aye. Michael. Aye.
Okay. The nays? Abstaining? Okay. So
Hold on.
approved.
Thank you. And thank you, Susan.
Huh?
Yeah, Teresa would have got us if we would have skipped. Okay, so now, Brian, give us an update on technology in 2021 and 2022.
So it's not a lot. It was since we've been in the capital plan. One of the things that we did last year, we did that transfer to the capital fund for technology last year. And one of the things that we got done was the storage update for our main data center and our disaster recovery site. The previous storage was bought out by HP and they quickly end of lifed it on us. And so we had to go and get some new storage from somebody else. So that's what we did. So that covered both our primary storage here and on our disaster recovery site. We changed both of those out. We did that through the months of like September and October of last year. We changed all of that.
And I just want to add something real quick. Brian and I have talked about this, and we're going to refer to the secondary site as the disaster recovery site. We're going to try our best to stop referring to it in public meetings in terms of a location.
Yeah.
For security reasons. And so we're always happy to take you there. We're always happy to show it to you, but we're going to just refer to it as the disaster recovery site.
It's a site that we manage and maintain and we have full access to and all that kind of stuff. It's one that we built ourselves. And it is in our footprint.
We own.
Yeah. So we do have servers there. We have all of that kind of stuff there. So we could, it's like a micro site for our main data center. So we did that last year. The other thing we did is we launched before that, but it really got into full swing in this last year, is we did the Wi-Fi to go. That's checking out the hotspots to customers. We spent a lot of time on that, just kind of getting that perfected, getting all of our policies down. I think we did a great job of getting our policy set. We don't bill the customers any overdues for those. We do bill them if they don't bring it back. That's just to encourage them to bring it back. If they bring it back, we forgive the bill. We obviously don't charge them anything. We just want the device back. That seems to have worked very well. Now we have 515 of those in service, and they are checked out all the time. They are pretty much just gone all the time. And then back, let's see, it was in December, we started what we call our Chromebook To Go service. It's all under an umbrella called Technology To Go. I know that's really original, but we started our Chromebook To Go service. We have 175 of those now that we check out, and that service is doing really well. There's always some of those available for people to check out, but the vast majority of them are out most of the time.
Can people reserve those in advance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. They can put holds on them. They can do that with the hotspots also. They get routed between our branches. So if you're in the Northland and it's at a branch in the South, we run it up there for you. So just like we do our books and the rest of our materials, it's all part of our hold system. And then they generally live wherever they wind up, kind of like our floating does for our materials. So if they get checked in at another branch, they just stay there. And if they need to go to another one, they just take off again and go there. So, but like I said, the hotspots they are gone all the time, literally all the time. There's normally a wait list for those most of the time.
Brian, is there a concentration where those hotspots are mostly checked out from, or is it pretty much throughout the system? Is it like in technology deserts?
Yeah, so like North Independence does quite a few. Believe it or not, Woodneath does. Buckner does quite a bit. Red Bridge and Blue Ridge do their share, and Grandview, that whole area out there. But they get used generally pretty much everywhere. Even our smaller branches up north, they get used up there. They're smaller communities, so they don't have the circulation numbers that the bigger locations do, but they do get used up there quite a bit. And that's one of the reasons T-Mobile is huge in this thing. We did look at AT&T and Verizon to compare. Neither one of them really have a program like T-Mobile does for being able to reset the devices and cancel and get new ones if they're not brought back. So we ended up going with T-Mobile for those. So far it's worked very well. It's worked really, really well. So we got little cases for them and little instruction booklets and survey forms for the customers to fill out in there. And we've done really good on the surveys on those.
How much? I have a question. I'm sorry. Is your question complete? How much is it costing the library, like monthly, to have the hotspots to maintain them, to like the loss?
We're not out any money from people losing them. It's kind of interesting how it works. So if somebody doesn't bring them back, a week after they're overdue, we disable the device. We have a report that runs that tells us when things are a week past. So we disable the device, and then that's sort of that, oh, this thing doesn't work anymore, I better take it back. And that generally works pretty well. They'll also get a bill really fast after that saying, hey, you need to bring this back. And that works pretty well. If they don't, then what happens is we have some quarterly reports run that shows us all those things that just have not been returned. We get with T-Mobile and we cancel the service on the one that they haven't brought back. And then we start a new service. And if you start a new service as part of our plan, they give you the device, so we don't have to even pay for the device. So we're actually not out any money for replacing them at all, other than just the monthly fee that it costs us to do them. So they're like $29 a month, and it's unlimited data. No data caps, no data throttling, none of that kind of stuff going on.
And anecdotally, I've heard customers say that they've strung 4 or 5 devices off of it easily without any problems.
Yeah, they work pretty well. I can do math. I know how much they cost.
About $15,000 a month. It sounds
Yeah, it's about $180,000 a year, and that is in the budget. Now, all of those were paid for via grants. We bought them in like 3 different segments to total the 515. That's why we have kind of a weird number. But we're just now running out of the core grant that we had, and we have to start paying for them now. And then we have another little grant that's going to cover 75 new ones that we're putting into service to bring us to the 515. So that grant will cover us through midsummer on those 75. But then we'll have to start paying for them ourselves after that. So we've done really good on stretching the grant money out for over a year worth of them being in service. So
Now, with these services, along with passports and notary and a few other things, we trialed new services during the pandemic because we had to. And this certainly happened that way as well. I mean, we got some additional grant funds that allowed us to try some things. We've learned some things, but it really is still just a trial service. So one of the things that I've talked with Brian about and Susan is that at some point, probably sometime between when the budget is passed and the end of the calendar year, staff needs to bring recommendations to start moving trial services to permanent services and let the board say, yes, this is a permanent service. And we will have all the funding for this for the coming year. But if the board decides, oh yeah, this was a nice try, but we don't want to do it anymore, then that will be up to the board. So the Wi-Fi to go and the hotspots, they do have an ongoing budget cost. The Chromebooks don't. Once we pay for those, they're obviously just paid for.
So the Chromebooks aren't Wi-Fi enabled, or
they're not. They need to check a hotspot out at the same time. One of the reasons we didn't bundle hotspots with them is we were afraid people would check them out just for the hotspots, and then the Chromebooks would be gone with the hotspots. So we kept them separate. That's why we did it. And we probably need to go back and reevaluate that. We had hoped that we would hit a number that would put us kind of over the top. So we had some hotspots sitting around. We haven't reached that yet. So at some point, it's just going to be probably a budgetary concern more than just, how many do we think that we need to have to keep us, keep a few sitting around that we could bundle or do with other things. So we've kept them separate.
Would fees, like to return them, like you said, sometimes people are keeping them a week after and then we're disabling them. Would enabling fees on those, like maybe, okay, if you're over a week, it's going to be $15. If you're over, or 20, I mean, you made it $29. If somebody, I'm just saying that a $29 late fee, if somebody kept it for a week, just kept it for an extra week. Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you up front, if you keep it past this day, it's going to be $29. And then, to bill people, I know there's some people that can't afford that, and the people at the desk could do that, but it might be a way to kind of counterbalance that expense.
We did talk about that, and really it was because of those that are on the lower income side probably couldn't afford those fees. We just decided not to do that.
There's a handful. Yeah, there's a
Maybe
handful.
giving them a grace period, though. Giving them a week grace period is,
Yeah, what we run into is that there's a lot in the literature that says too that folks that have a little bit more of an economic hardship are less likely to even try to take it out.
Yeah,
They'll just,
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm not going to take it out, and then that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
right. But there's warnings, like if you say, okay, yours is due tomorrow, and then giving them a week or so. I'm just saying, even if it was $5 a day. If it was just, or $1 a day or something, if they're doing it a week, just making it to where that they would return them. Because it's costing the library a lot of money. If you're having to have somebody call to T-Mobile, you're having to wait and get a rep, and they're having to disable, you're taking.
It's all, we do it all automatic.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all
there's some staff time spent on these, but the reports all come out automatic.
But our walk rate's pretty low too. I know you told me what the walk rate was, and it's pretty low.
Yeah, I think we went. It's probably like 10% maybe over the year. It wasn't as bad.
Wasn't nearly what we thought it was going to be.
No. Other systems have it a lot. Have had a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
But
Also, Lori, in terms of cost to the library, there's a lot of services that this type of hotspot and Chromebooks and Wi-Fi to go would replace. For instance, our library to go before that we had at community centers, instead of maintaining and traveling and refilling that, we're now able to give them something that they can access everything virtually if they would like. They would have. So there's kind of
you mean like you're talking about the resources inside the library?
Well, we had different sites set up at different community centers that we're looking at ending, where people could go and check out books and movies and get their materials at community centers. We had 3 of them. Four. We had 4 of them throughout the city. But those have, again, it's a way to get access. We provide access to people who needed those resources close to home or close to
So they're community centers that are not library centers. They're like like a gym or something. Okay.
We still have 2 of those that have computers in them.
There's still 2, but yeah.
But this is the expense you spent for that can now be spent with this. So the overall cost is balanced a little bit better.
It's also part of a kind of a subtle program, especially going into COVID and coming out of that, for our services to be flexible. People couldn't come into the buildings and use the PCs because we were closed, and we were like, hey, they need to be able to have internet still, and they need to have the access devices. So we started to pivot things to let
It was a brilliant shift. Yeah. I was like, that is awesome.
To let people take stuff where they need it. You know, we got all the print from home going, so people would be able to print from home and come in and be able to get their printouts. So we shifted to a lot of that to allow people to be able to meet their needs in this time. I mean, we're open now, and the public PCs and the Wi-Fi is certainly coming back in the buildings. But there's just some people that just aren't going to come back to that way of doing it. They want to be able to take the stuff home. And
How long do they check it out for?
it's 2 weeks, and they can renew it if there's not a wait, which there is on Hotspots.
An issue right now.
We kept the Chromebooks the exact same. They have the same overdue structure, the same, everything's the same. That way, if they take 2 out at the same time, they don't have to think about which one they got to return first or anything like that.
And these are out now. I mean, we do also have laptops in the building that people can use in the building. So for flexibility there.
Yeah, those are typically for overflow for the public PCs. Right. Some people just want to be able to sit someplace different so they can check a laptop out and use it in the building.
Do you have any idea of the top 3 uses that people use the Chromebook and Wi-Fi hotspots for?
Not so much on the Chromebooks, because we haven't gotten a lot of survey results on those. On the hotspots, I can tell you that. Let me find that. Now I'm going to dig through my bookmarks of the.
I mean, you can give it to me later. I'm asking a very picky question. But.
Yeah. So school and work projects is very high. Other is very high. But yeah, so school and work projects is the highest one, with other. Probably the next one is adding more internet to home, and then job searching and job related stuff is after that. So.
Yeah, those are outside of the other. I don't know, but the work and job search are 2 things that we really don't want to deter people from getting access to.
The other interesting answer was, what types of devices do you connect to these? Laptop was the big one, but smartphone was the next one.
Oh.
And we think
that makes sense to me.
Yes, it does to me too. They're saving their data plan and using our data plan. So yeah, that one made. Once I thought about it for more than a second, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. They're conserving their data plan. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So really, the library is helping through these services. If the other is gaming, that's one thing, but it looks like these type of services are really helping people to enrich their lives, which is the main purpose, which is to,
Well,
you can enrich your lives with gaming too. But
well, the story that I like to tell is that when I was out working, I want to make sure I've got the branch right, Eastleigh Summit. So I was out helping with Eastleigh Summit during the AB shifting, and I was responsible for greeting and orienting people and helping them pick up their books and all of that. Somebody brought the Wi-Fi device in it. So I said, I've just got to ask you a bunch of questions. So please bear with me if you've got time. And she said, well, the reason that she checked it out is she'd lost her job and she had 4 kids at home. And she said, I needed to find a job desperately. And so this was height of the pandemic. I needed to find a job desperately. My kids couldn't afford to fall behind. And she said, and we all used it. And now I've got a job, because you could, well, I think you still can get a job in 2 weeks these days. I mean, just as hot as the job market is, if it's what you want to do. And so I was asking her about throughput. She said, oh yeah, all 4 kids were on and I was doing my applications at the same time and it all worked fine. So yeah, for that particular family, we were that bridge. We helped her get back on her feet again and help the kids not fall behind. And it certainly seems like a reasonable thing for a library to do.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, it's like 1,000 people that you're helping a month. If it's 2 weeks and then they give it back, I mean, that's 1,000 people a month that are. Do you like keep track of is it the same people that's using it over and over, or is it? Do you know the number of different people that used it?
Yeah, we can get the
probably get that
number if we wanted to. I don't think it's the same people over and over. It's a lot of different people.
But it really is sort of like a lifeboat. I mean, it's the idea.
Yeah, sure.
It's just kind of help people
Yeah,
out.
I'd like to see a demographic of like what Jocelyn asked, where is it that's needing it? Is it more, is it outliers, people that maybe don't have, because I know a lot of times in the rural areas, actually, they don't have any cell phone capabilities, some of the things don't work. And if they don't have that, and if it's a reliable Wi-Fi that they can use, I know that's meeting a need as well. So I would like to see a demographic and the number of people. I mean, it's, approximately 1,000 people a month. I'm guessing if it's different people. So it's really exciting. I think it's a great thing. And it's nice to know about the library, the Chromebooks, because from a perspective of small businesses, I like to think of small businesses. A lot of small businesses will do an event and they'll need 10 Chromebooks for a day. They don't need them for, a long time. So they just want them for a day to do an event. And I wasn't even aware that we offered that.
I hadn't thought about that application. That is a great application.
Because for small businesses, working in IT, I'm always, scrambling to find, I've done charities, I've done a lot of different things, and we're checking out from other places. Hey, can we just check out these, 10 Chromebooks for one night? We only need them for one night, for an auction at a school.
Like an auction.
Like at a school auction or for, Newhouse Women's Shelter. I do a lot with, with that. And we just needed, just for one night. We don't need them. We don't want the expense of buying, 10 Chromebooks. But I didn't realize that's a great
And probably with enough lead time, we could probably arrange to help with that. I mean, if somebody comes in and says, on Thursday and says, I need these tomorrow, we probably couldn't do it. But with enough lead time, we could reserve them.
And it wouldn't pull from the hotspots because you could have one hotspot for 10 Chromebooks.
Theoretically,
theoretically. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me write that down.
So what I'm still going to do is and this really goes for a lot of things that we set up, like I was saying. I mean, we've got the Chromebooks, the exterior Wi-Fi antennas, which that'd be kind of silly to undo that since it's out there and really not cost anything now. But we've got several new services that we just sort of had to pivot and try. And now we've got to decide, are we going to do them permanently? And if we're going to do them permanently, what's the fine structure, all of those sorts of the policies around them. I think staff could bring a report to that end, either at the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023 before we get into the next year's budget cycle, and just, get all of that squared away. So.
Well, I'm just brainstorming of an idea. I mean, I was thinking about what you said about, people, because I mean, as a mom, I never know what's going to be thrown my way in a day. And so missing a library book return or missing, that definitely has been on my mind before. But I was thinking, if we're giving them a week grace period and we start sending notices, hey, this is the day, this is the day, this is the day, that gives them 7 full days of a grace period. But that's also somebody else who's on a waiting list going, I'm having to wait 7 extra days. I'm waiting 7 extra days to get my hotspot. So, but I do think that if there was just some type of a fine and we could, I mean, it just to offset $180,000 a year, that's a pretty significant amount, and no fines are going to offset it like that. And I definitely think we could empower those that are at the branch to show grace as needed. But there's a lot of people that I think would see the benefit to that from a donation.
That analysis, I'd like to see the cost of recovering the fines figured in there. And like we found with our books that we're not collecting as much fines as we think we are because we have some cost overhead to recover the fines. So
sure,
we kind of have to balance that.
But we can certainly that. I mean that's the whole purpose. I mean we like to try things and then bring you the data and tell you how they're being used. And anecdotally, I've spoken with, I know the only 2 branches I ever spoke to that said that customers complain is Edgerton and Lone Jack were the 2 places that said that customers complain about not having a strong signal. And I said, okay, now cards on the table. Do they get a strong signal for anything? And they said, no, you don't get a strong signal for anything out here. And I said, okay, so we're a little bit, but on the other hand, you go out to Buckner or Excelsior Springs. I think I talked with those folks, and they said, yeah, it's stronger than their cell phone and things like that. So it's a really good. The T-Mobile network is actually a very strong network around here.
We looked at a map for like every branch, and even those Camden Point, Dearborn, Edgerton are covered under their 4G. It's super hilly up there. So you can be down in a valley and
that's what it was.
It's just super hilly up there.
So I interrogated them. I said, okay, so how big are the hills around the house and all that?
So it's a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy up there.
It just is. Yeah. But yeah, we can keep working on that.
Good things happening.
The only other thing that we have that we sort of loosely consider part of Technology to Go is we started our Access Wellness program, and we check out those Access Wellness kits that have the blood pressure monitor, the pulse oximeter, the forehead thermometer, and the scale. It's more part of a wellness thing, but I think because I put it together, it's sort of considered a technology. So, and that's going pretty well also. So we got good news coverage on that, and that one's going pretty well also. The trial service that we're using.
So what are the things? The scale, a thermometer, and blood pressure?
And pulse oximeter. So it's a little thing you put on your finger. It tells you your blood oxygen level. So yeah.
And then there's a booklet that tells you several different places where you can
community resources.
Community resources if you have questions.
There's an instruction booklet on how to use all the stuff. So yeah, that one's going pretty well too.
Do you get a wide range of people, age groups using that, or do you find that the older folks are able to use that well for like wellness, well visits?
So far, yeah, I think so. We don't have a lot of feedback on that one. We're trying to get people to.
Pretty new too.
Yeah. So yeah, that one's really new also. So that's another one that we're trying to get folks to respond to the survey on. We're going to start including a card in the kits to kind of push them a little bit to take the survey.
And how many kits do you have?
We have 20.
And are they checked out regularly? Or?
Yeah. Same exact checkout rules. 2 weeks, get billed if they're a week over. No overdue fines on those either. Those are really cheap to put together. They do get billed for each individual piece if they're missing a piece, but we do that after the fact if they bring it back. And then, what else was I going to say? Yeah, it's basically the same checkout as we do for the hotspots and the Chromebooks. So same 2 week checkout period. So
is that linked to like anything that wellness, like can they track it on their cell phone, or is it like an app or?
No, we didn't want to include any devices in there that would track anything or store personal data or do anything like that. So yeah, we stayed well away from that for HIPAA reasons and other reasons. We didn't want to be storing anybody's personal health related stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. So that's
Oh, Michael here. I have a question for you on those.
Yeah.
Is when those come back, is there any like refurbishing or cleaning or anything like that that has to take place before those are, you know, checked out again? And
Yes.
if so, then, you know, is that labor intensive? Or is there a cost to that? That kind of stuff.
We do include, yes, to your question about do we clean them when we get them back, but we do include sanitizing wipes in the kits so that the customers can wipe them down also if they feel like they should, and then we refurb that between each checkout. And then when they get them back in, the staff wipes down everything with these sanitizing wipes that the local health departments recommended. And they just wipe them down real quick, wipe down the case that it's all in and everything, and then we get it ready for people to check out. It's not very labor intensive to do that. They just open it up, just wipe it all down, put it back together, and put it back. There's just 20 of them. There's not,
Okay.
you know, there's not like 500 of them like there is a Hotspots and,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
Yeah, it's really not much more labor intensive than a lot of our other kits that we have, where
Right.
if you return a multi-part kit to the library, they'll always open them
we
up.
have to
and
check them.
and-
We have to check them.
Yeah, it's not that much. And I was going to make a joke about I don't want to joke because it's the truth, but we do have, you know, pallets of sanitizing wipes and, you know, alcohol stuff still from from COVID. Not quite pallets, but we do have some surplus. So we've got plenty in order to do this without any additional.
We're using surplus stuff for that right now. And then, yeah, so. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's what I have on the kind of what's been happening the last year. I mean, you know, we're still doing the capital plan as we, you know, as an update whenever we.
Well, and Brian, I want to pause there for a second and go into a little bit more detail, because Joycelyn's been here through the capital plan, but our other two members haven't been here through the whole capital plan. So talk about what happens when, you know, when Jake builds a new building.
That's what I was going to do. So whenever we had a budget as part of the capital plan, and so the first thing we did is we bought like all new PCs. And then once a building is redone, all the wiring is replaced, all the networking gear is replaced and is updated. If the wireless needs to be updated or enhanced, we update that. And then we set in all the new PCs and all the stuff when they open back up. So it's pretty much just, other than the self checks and some of the things that we reused from the previous building, it's all pretty much new when we go back in.
And are you guys doing like the Windows 11 upgrades that are free right now? Or are you guys, what version of Windows?
We're still 10.
10.
We're still on Windows 10. We've got a couple thousand devices out there. Our public PCs are all virtualized through a virtual infrastructure. So on the PCs that the customers come in and use, they just have a client on them, and they just connect to our server infrastructure in our data center and get a desktop. That's all still Windows 10 also. And then our servers most of our servers that we have in here are all some flavor of Windows server also. Yeah, we're kind of a big Microsoft shop.
Well, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had a plan for, you know, just rewiring the buildings, enhancing all the networking, all of that stuff, because it all needed to be done with just like we did everything else. So it's all pretty new when we go back in there again. So, yep.
And we have, do we have fiber to every building?
All but 2 of them, and we're about ready to fix that. So it's Dearborn and Edgerton.
But we may not be using the full array, but we've got the infrastructure.
Yeah. So, yep.
That's very interesting. Very interesting stuff. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that's been going on, is just a lot of working on the buildings. You know, that's something that is at the top of the list. Everything else, we have to, when a building's slated to be open, it has to be ready to be open. We can't not do it. So it's always at the top of the list. So, yep.
And let's do another walk down memory lane. Again, this is one of the things Ron was always encouraging us to do, is we virtualized our desktops, both staff and public. So
We haven't done staff.
Oh, haven't done staff yet, but
No,
public.
public.
So if the public goes on and they install a piece of software, when it reboots, it goes back to its.
They can install software.
You can't at all?
You can install software.
And so how does the Adobe Creative Cloud stuff work at
We don't have that.
Okay.
We don't have that out there. So,
Okay.
I mean, they have Acrobat Reader. They have Acrobat Reader and all of that kind of stuff
Okay.
on it, but they don't have that. So that's all centrally updated through here.
Okay.
But we don't have the Creative Suite on any of it.
On any of it? Okay.
Right, because that's by machine, right? So virtually would be,
Yeah, licensing Adobe Creative Suite.
it'd be very expensive to do that.
And it's also, so far they haven't created a licensing structure where it actually is technically legal to do it. So.
We always want to be legal.
Yeah.
And so the Adobe Creative Suite, they come in, so like somebody would have to sit at a computer for like 8 hours in, or could they do that? So they can't do it on, how would they run that?
We don't.
We can't yet.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
We don't even have that in.
And actually,
we were
to
going
run it,
to.
we'd have to upgrade a few computers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something, pre-pandemic, we were talking about it. That's what I was remembering. I
Oh.
thought he'd already
Adobe.
installed it, but
Because
The Creative Suite doesn't work well in a virtual environment. You can make it work, you can kind of force it to, but then the licensing is still kind of an issue. It's a big gray area with Adobe. And so then you just have to have standalone PCs that do it, and they have to be better than what we have.
Right, and it would be,
right now.
like, somebody would have to be able to save it to something to, and
Yeah,
come
it's usually
back.
saved to the
And
cloud
you don't-
automatically.
Yeah, we can make it so that it resets them between each use, which is what we do now. But yeah, they would have to save it to a flash drive or to the cloud or something like that. Because as soon as they end the session, it would wipe everything out and start over again.
in pre-pandemic, we were talking about doing that in the lab at Whitney because it kind of
Yeah,
made
that's what I'm
sense.
saying.
Yeah,
It kind of made sense, but we got distracted.
So for USBs, this is just something,
That's-
because I work for a technology company, this is something that we visit all the time.
Right.
So I'm wondering, as a library, if it would be worth our time to provide little USBs that people can back up their stuff on. The
Yeah,
reason,
we do.
well, because are we allowing people to put their own USBs into the computers? Because I mean, that's how, there's so many viruses and
they can.
they can.
They can, but it's scanned.
Yeah, I mean, these things are so locked down,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. You can't save anything, you can't make changes to them. And then when they're all isolated, each one in the virtual desktop environment is all isolated from each other. And when they end the session, it's basically like we've taken that PC out and just destroyed it and put a brand new one in its place. It basically just destroys that whole virtual desktop and builds another one for the next person that walks up. It's like brand new every single time.
Okay.
We don't allow them to save anything on it. We don't allow them to make changes on it. You can't write files to it. It's super locked down. It's just
But you can pull files from a USB and save files to a USB.
Oh, sure. You can open a document or close it, but we don't let you run programs off of it. We don't let you
Okay.
do any of that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. No, it's
opens up a whole.
Right.
It's like, ooh.
and one of the reasons we do that is so that anyone in here can say with 100% confidence that when you end that session, that thing is destroyed and it's gone. And that we don't allow anybody to write anything to them or make changes or update software or
Okay, great.
they are almost to a fault lockdown. So we take that and we've always done that. As long as I can remember, we've done it like that. We've had another piece of software called Deep Freeze. And when you ended the session, it would reboot and it was like the PC was frozen in time. It would just wipe everything out and bring it back like it was before.
So that was always a pain because lots of times you'd have to go out before we could push the
Yeah.
client out. You'd have to go out and install like every time Adobe Reader would upgrade,
You have to touch every one of them.
upload each one.
Yeah. That's why we virtualized.
Yeah,
So we could
save
just
a
do it
lot
from
of
here.
resources. Okay.
Yeah, so that works very well. That works very, very well.
Well, and time permitting too, Lori, we want to walk you, Joycelyn, we want to walk you around and, show you some of the stuff that Brian's talking about, the physical plant as well that we've got here. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a big chunk of this is that we've just been wanting to make sure that you're able to see
what the dollars are used. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that, the reports that we've had, I mean, I think that seeing like how many people checked out this hotspot and how, I mean, and the location, I mean, I think when we go to the board, everybody's going to want to know this because that's really exciting.
Mhm.
It's very exciting that it's been so successful. And I kind of feel like, from a library side, we were right there, right? Because so many people were
Yes.
like devastated. I mean, I lost my job during the pandemic because of the pandemic. It's like it definitely impacted people. And so I think that having something like that available is really a commendable thing that we need to promote to the community, that's what we provided. So I'm looking forward to seeing like that, how many of those things are. So what's the next thing?
So we know you had some questions, and so we just have kind of an infrastructure review if you have questions about, so I can try to keep that
I encourage Brian to
out of the weeds.
keep it a little bit higher, and Laura, you can ask more detail.
We kind of get in the weeds. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So what questions do you have about, you kind of mentioned some of those topics to Steve.
Well, we were talking about like some of the cloud storage. I mean, I'm just kind of curious, like for cloud storage, there's so many technologies out there right now, and cloud data storage is coming down to pennies. Like it's like the search. And I just was curious, like what we're paying, how much we're like, are we renegotiating contracts with some of the countries and companies that are out there to keep, because it's just like, this prices go down and down and down, making sure that we're not locked into something that's.
So this may be a different answer than you're looking for. So we actually don't do backups to the cloud.
Oh, okay.
We have our disaster recovery site that we manage, and that's where our backups and all of our replication go to. And so that's something, we can remote into that site or drive out there and just start booting up servers right now. It's not what we call a hot site. It's kind of a passive site. It won't just start doing things for you. We have full servers, full data storage, all that stuff out there. So we really don't back up to the cloud. We don't have like an AWS account or anything like that, and we're backing up to the cloud. But keep in mind, most of our major services that we have now are hosted by the folks that provide it.
Right. So
it's all software as a service. We don't really host any of our business critical. There's a few that I would say are business serious, but we are in the process of, one of them's in the process of being migrated right now. And the other one, we're looking for some solutions for it. So like our CRC, Patron and Database services that we have through CRC Dynex, that's the company that provides our library automation software. They host that as a software as a service. So we're not hosting any customer data here. We've never hosted credit card transactions, anything like that here. We've never hosted any of that. It's basically just address, phone number, and email, but we don't even do that anymore. That's hosted out with them. Our website's hosted as software as a service. Our catalog is software as a service. All of our email, phone stuff is all through Microsoft 365. That's all hosted out. And we all have OneDrive storage where we store most of our personal files. Not personal work related personal files. We're not storing vast quantities of music out there or anything.
The interesting story about our topology is that last summer, our main data line went down. Because we're hub and spoke, and so our main data line went down from here, and I didn't even know about it for a day. I mean, I was still working
during the lockdown.
Yeah, during the lockdown, and I was still working from home, and eventually Brian contacted and said, "Yeah, we have no connection." And it's like I couldn't tell.
We were still circling boats. People were still placing holds.
Yeah.
All of our payroll, time and attendance stuff for our employees is hosted software as a service. And a lot of these places won't even give you the option anymore.
right.
If we go out and shop around for another library automation vendor, they're going to go, no, you got to host it. You have to host it out here. You can't host it on your own anymore. So we
From
have a
security
very,
perspective,
yes.
that kind of takes a lot of liability off of the library
can, yeah.
because it puts to those
yeah,
things.
so we
that's
have a very distributed system, and I know all those vendors, they don't even use the same back end. You know, it's not like they're all piling into AWS or Microsoft or some other thing. They all have their own solutions, or they're using something out there. So it's not even like they could be affected by a major outage out there. And so while it would be terrible if CRC were to get hit by some ransomware or something, it's not as bad as if we still hosted all that in-house and we had a ransomware attack and it affected it all at the same time, because then I would be talking to you and saying, we have to close the library system while we figure out what to do.
Which did happen to St. Louis Public
Yeah.
Library about 2.5 or 3
There's
years.
there's stuff here that would be bad, and it would make for a bad week while we got recovered from it. But it's nothing that is what I would say is business critical that we have here anymore. There's some big file stores that we host in our data center and some things like that, but it's nothing that I don't think we could recover from. So
that's good to know. Yeah, that
Yeah.
because you just have to be so aware of these things, and I just want to make sure that
Yes.
from a perspective
Oh, yeah.
of everything that's going out there, it's like it sounds like that we're very diversified with our storage. So that's a good.
it's about 10 years ago, we decided to start, we picked a site and we started doing our backups to it. And then that seemed to be working pretty well. And then that just kind of turned into a full DR site. And we put servers and storage and everything out there. And then through our virtual services, we replicate all of our servers out there. Our
Have a little
backups
generator
out there. Yeah, we do have a generator there. And our main data center, for those of you that don't know, we have a generator, we have 2 air conditioners, we have a ton of spare equipment, servers, routers, firewalls, all that stuff. We take that very seriously.
The
So
site was actually built to do that.
Yeah.
It was part of plans.
Yeah.
So it's protected from like tornadoes and flooding, that kind of disaster as well.
Great.
Yeah, so we're feeling pretty good about where I mean, a lot of it was about risk, decreasing risk and risk liability was sort of where we were initially, and then looking at other variables. So, I mean, if we also do staff training, malware training and phishing training and stuff like that. I think the last time I talked with Aaron, who manages our email servers, I think he was saying only about 10% is still about 10% of our email that gets through. The other 90% is
it's mostly spam
and phishing and things like that we're able to keep away.
We have a very aggressive backup strategy for going to deep archive and mitigating ransomware's ability to get stored in any of that stuff, so that we can get things back. That's all through our backup partner. We work closely with them, with the backup software provider for that. We do have, like Steve said, we have a Microsoft system specialist. We have a server specialist. We have a network specialist, a network administrator that takes care of all this stuff for us. So every day.
Wonderful.
As well as our IT manager and assistant manager and everybody else that takes care of stuff. So,
and all kinds of great processes and procedures. I mean, when we have somebody who has to, leave by fault of their own, then we just immediately shut down their Microsoft account, which means they can't log on, can't do any damage, all of that. So
yeah, we do annual security risk assessments. We do a vulnerability and penetration test every year. So we have a company that comes in and actually just hammers all of our servers to see what's open that we need to fix. They do that from the outside, from the internet, to make sure our firewalls aren't letting anything through. Our firewalls have threat management and security stuff all turned on. So they're scanning the network all the time, and they can actively block things at the network level. So yeah, and then obviously we have antivirus software on all of our desktops. We have a different suite of software on our servers between the physical and the virtual, so they can talk to each other. So we can't get something on the physical level that affects our virtual services and vice versa. They're talking to each other. So we have a lot of layers. We have a lot of layers. So
that's
yes.
very reassuring, because I mean, with cybersecurity, I mean, I work for a software as a service provider, and that's, you know, I mean, we're like amazed at the way that hackers and people that are trying, I mean, it's like,
Advanced.
it's like,
Yeah,
wow, you know, that you know, just recently Okta, which is like one of the most secure things that people can use to sign in, just got hacked. It's like, of course you would hack the most secure
Well, of course
thing.
you would, yeah.
And so, you know, that's why just being aware of those things and constantly updating, and that's why I just was curious because I hadn't heard. So I appreciate you.
Well, and
giving me
actually,
that.
we took a couple of extra steps too. So we enhanced our cybersecurity threat insurance about a year ago. And part of that, they had us do two-factor authentication, to really broaden that out. And what wasn't that it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're multi-factor authentication.
So we're multi-factor across the board, which we weren't, you know, just a year ago.
Right.
So that's all done.
But, you know, with people, that's why I was asking about USBs. I mean, you know,
Right.
if one of your people, somebody leaves a USB on their desk and they pick it up and put it into a, you know, a private network, and that has,
Yeah, we
you know, it just,
don't like that. So.
yeah.
At this point, that's in the securing the human area.
Yes.
where we
Yeah,
have
it's
to-
definitely human error. That's right, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, it's just it's something that happens, and you know, you're like, dang it, how did that even happen? I go to a lot of hacker cybersecurity events, and that's amazing the things that people think of. I'm like, I just can't think like that.
You can't think, I can't think like
You
that.
can exploit pretty much anything.
Yeah.
You know, there's, yeah.
All right, well, that answered my questions. I appreciate you addressing
Yeah,
those.
so
Thank
we
you.
went a little bit different route. We don't just dump everything out into the cloud. We have control over it and we know where it is and we can access it whenever we need to. So yeah, we just went a little bit different route. I think in the end, it's better to have this because we can actually just boot servers and do things if we need to. You know, if your data's out there stored in the cloud and you need to restore from like a bad fire or a tornado or something like that, then you got to build all those servers again and you got to restore it all. And we can just go to our disaster recovery site and just start booting things up and getting access to it like right now. So yep.
Exciting. Thank you.
Yeah. So
We feel pretty good. And the other thing that we always want to make sure people are comfortable and understanding is that, you know, we ask for things like people, probably the most identifiable piece of information we have from people is their name and their date of birth. But we don't have social security number, credit card numbers, anything.
never stored any of
We've
that.
never stored anything like that. So even if people do pay with a credit card, it gets wiped right after their transaction.
Yeah.
So,
We don't even process that stuff here anymore.
No, so-
It all gets processed in the
so
cloud.
very, very low risk in terms of like someone trying to come in and they get the Patron database. I mean, it's going to be a nailing list is all of them pretty much be, which would be bad. It would be really bad if someone were to do that, but it wouldn't be a situation where people could open new credit accounts or anything like that off of it. So,
Good.
yeah. So
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question and kind of a suggestion. Question, I noticed from a personnel committee meeting where you're getting a new IT position.
Mhm.
I was just wondering
coming into
where that
the
was.
internet.
So we have like IT's kind of split into two separate pieces. There's kind of like the back end infrastructure part where those systems administrators are. And then we have kind of an end user support group.
Mhm.
And that's where that person is going.
Oh,
so
good.
End user support. And it's primarily because we have a bunch of enhanced buildings now and a bunch of new stuff and they just can't keep up with it. I think the last time we did the math, there's 5 of those people, they have to take care of 5 or 6 buildings the size of headquarters, which is
Yeah.
like 120 people or something. So yeah, that's where we're gonna put that person. Is in that
Okay.
group.
Yeah, I was
I play
just
with this
curious.
dashboard all the time.
The other thing was kind of a thought for the future. I agree with Lori. I think that I would like to see us find a way to get people access to the Adobe Cloud. It's just so cost prohibitive for people who are starting new businesses who this isn't their career yet. And if they're not in a school that provides that, I mean, I've got 2 girls who are at art school who have access to it. And that is the industry standard.
Yes.
People want to get into the field. And I was thinking, just an idea that if we were to have a couple of licenses per like select places, like one would be like wooden.
Yeah, they'd have to be centralized.
Yeah, like Woodneath, where people are doing books and doing book covers and things of that nature. I was thinking of, I'm not sure, but if there's a need for it at the MGC, if people are doing like family videos or family trees and getting those out. I was thinking like Coburn Road with the small businesses who are trying to get their logos and their bookstores and their menus. North Independence, we have the computer lab that could be STEAM and STEM, along with Blue Ridge, who is a technology desert trying to get STEAM and STEM in there. I'm trying to work with a nonprofit, and for nonprofits, I think you can get like 10 licenses for like $4,000 or $5,000 a year. But that's probably what it costs almost for an individual to have access to the full suite.
You don't get much of a discount for nonprofits, believe it or not. It is something, but it's not. It's not like Microsoft. We get a huge discount for Microsoft. It's giant.
Yeah, but not for the Adobe suite. But I think if you even had like dedicated higher end computers with, two of them with a license of those things, I think you'd find them used a lot.
Oh yeah, do you think that having a dedicated station or like something like a MacBook Pro that they could check out and take home, would that be?
That would be amazing. Can I borrow that?
But I think that would be a way to, because that is a field where people don't really need to go to college to enter. They just need the skill and the practice and the time in the programs. You got photographers who need to use, all the suite, videographers. I think I would like to see us do that. I've had business owners ask about that a lot.
And I like the idea of your idea, even because if somebody could check it out, like, again, you don't need it. I mean, if I'm going to design a menu or I'm going to design something for my business, I really only need it for this amount of time.
Just need the tool.
2 weeks, I can probably get a project done in 2 weeks. I don't need it for a whole year. And that's an expense that it's almost to hire somebody is cheaper, because by the time I go buy the license and stuff. And so if we allowed it to, if you get even 5 just to try it and see, or I love that idea, because I know personally I have some things that I like. I love it for the genealogy things. Genealogy. I'm sorry, genealogy. I mean, I do love rocks. It's one of my favorite things, especially really sparkly ones. I might take pictures of my rocks. But I think that your solution might be something that kind of goes well with your technology to go, as well as having, even if we just did it for a couple to try it. But I think that a 2-week trial, like a checkout of that, would be amazing for small businesses.
MacBooks are just, they're kind of the standard when it comes to that stuff. They're also pretty easy to control. Windows isn't as easy to control. That's why we went Chromebooks, because they're just, we can control them from here through the cloud. MacBooks have a guest mode that Windows lacks, and so you can put people into a guest mode and it just wipes it out when they're done. So they're much easier to handle. Amazingly, I guess,
because I think you have access through like .com and some of the universal class.
Yeah, we have a lot of
get on and learn about.
Oh yeah, we have a lot.
We have a lot of that.
But without the practice, it's not as helpful.
Well, it's always that next step, taking that next step. And I mean, I was showing Lori the utilization of our Get Connected cluster in Orange. And what you notice is that it goes up and it's kind of bumping along, and then the stay-at-home orders happen and it goes like this, then it goes back up, and then Omicron comes and it goes like this. And because it is very much connected to you physically coming into the building. And so a service like this could either help bring people into the building, or if you could check it out and take it home with you, it would still be of great benefit.
I mean, I know they're expensive and everything, but 10 or 20 of those, that's not a high entry cost, really.
No,
for a new service for us.
Yeah, it really is.
Not for the payoff.
Yeah.
It'd be a big bang for a buck for your small businesses.
Especially like the small businesses, like if we made sure that the small business, like where they have the boot camps, even if you had the small boot camp person have 10 there and have 10 people come and say, hey, today we're going to learn to design something for your business.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, starting with a logo or, like that they can put on their shirts or, something like that. I mean, that would be game changing for some small businesses. And I think 10 is a nice class size, even for teaching. I mean, even if we kept them internal to try it out at the small business, things for 10 people out.
Right.
I think that's a very, very neat idea for them.
And then when you do the art thing again,
Access art.
Yeah, access art. Because I mean, they've done it before with the laptops and whatever.
Right.
But
Right.
if they actually can learn on the laptops that they can then check out at some point. Beautiful.
We can put together something on that. See what it might take to do it.
Be great.
Brian, did you have anything else about sort of what you've been up to?
Well, I mean, that's it.
Well, the last thing that we wanted to do today was to go over the preliminary technology budget.
Oh, right.
And this kind of this lets you know what staff's been looking at for 2022-23. We don't have to take a vote on this. We can. I mean, if you all are comfortable with it, I believe you could take no, it's just an information report. We'll have to, if you want to endorse it, we'll have to meet again to endorse it because we didn't set this up as a vote. But traditionally, because this meeting always comes the Monday before board meeting, if we were to show you this at the next meeting, then you would have all of 24 hours to think about it. And that just didn't seem fair. So Brian and I thought we would at least, share with you kind of what is what we've been thinking about for the 2022-23 budget. Get some input, some thoughts, and see what we can do from there. So Brian, you want to go ahead and talk about those lines a little bit? Yeah, so the top line is just the core technology budget. That's where all of our software and hardware contracts come out of. We do have like a contingency fund in there for just like replacing laptops and printers, and if we have, if we need a contract with somebody to come out and help us do something, it all comes out of there. Another thing that we had talked about doing was doing a fundraising and development website update. We want that to blend a little bit better with the software they use to do that. So there's some money set aside for that. And then the next several lines, the public internet services, staff communication devices, branch connections to HQ. Those are all of our data, voice, and internet. That all comes out of that 5570 fund that Quan shows us once in a while. So that covers like our internet site. The hotspots are in there. As Steve said, we're kind of a hub and spoke. So all of our branch connections come back to here, and then they go out a central internet connection. So that covers all those connections. And then we just have some miscellaneous broadband and some landlines and things like that for running like elevators and fax machines and all of that stuff that we actually need a physical line still for. So that's in there as well. And then the self-check AMH, there's a whole bunch in that line. Automated materials handler is the AMH. We had talked about doing some kiosks at the new KCI airport terminal.
So like for like checking out a book or?
Yeah, it's like an informational kiosk, a charging station, that kind of stuff. And it would be kind of like one of the big kind of portrait displays. It would have info about the library on it and things that we do, and especially just e-materials and that kind of stuff that people could check out.
Right there
traveling. We would like it to do that. We're investigating that now. So the issue is always getting them a card. So it's just something we got to work on because you have to have a card to check that stuff out. So we're investigating how to do that. So. And so a little bit more information about this. So as the KCI airport project was developing, we actually did approach several of the vendors and asked them if there was a place for the public library to be part of their package. Two of the vendors included us in their bid package, and the winning vendor, we were actually included in their package with this idea that what we'd be able to do is put a couple of
tower display kiosks, sort of in the behind the security gates, sort of in the general holding area. San Antonio Public Library has done something similar to this at the San Antonio Airport for, gosh, I'm trying to think how long Romero's had that place, 5-6 years, something like that. And they were able to collaborate with Overdrive to get several books that Hudson News was not mad that they were giving them, that they were giving away access to it, because Hudson didn't want to cannibalize any sales. And so it's a lot of things like little kids books, travel books, things like that, that anyone could just go up there and just download it if they've got an Overdrive app on their phone. We still need to work out some of that. The other thing that we were talking about doing that they were excited about is, again, the idea is this would sort of be in common areas, not directly like at gate 12, but, like at a place where there's like a lot of tables for people to set, that we would set that up, and that there might be charging as well off of ours. So you might be able to plug in your device for charging, and then also download an ebook or an e-audio book or something along those lines. The other thing that we've talked with KCI about, and we haven't been able to work out because, I mean, it's still way down the road as far as they're concerned, is the idea of having them identify a handful of heavy travel days, like what would it be, like the Tuesday and Wednesday before Thanksgiving, those heavy travel days, and possibly have a couple of our staff behind the gate, within security, to do things like sort of ad hoc story times. So, you just walk around, you see some kids waiting at a gate, and you just do a story time or something with them. And so we talked, and we said we'd only do that 5-10 times a year, and they have to identify it. We're not going to do it all the time, just maybe during the highest travel days, which lots of times those highest travel days correlate with down days at the library. So it all works. So basically,
that's a great idea.
What we wanted to do, and the idea is to get people, obviously, when they were talking about building the new airport, they talked about how many people from the greater Kansas City area use the airport. So we're helping a lot of our customers. A lot of our customers are there flying. But the other thing that we're helping is just the profession as well, so that people begin to understand, hey, there was this cool library thing in Kansas City, and when they go back home, then they engage with their library. It's just good for the profession, was kind of our idea. And so, like I said, we approached, when they were still contemplating the airports, we approached Joe McBride and some of the people at the airport about doing this. Very excited about it. And so we've actually put this in the 300 line, or the 300 account, which is our capital account. That's sort of our one-time expenses account. And we intend on adding that in the 22-23 budget. The airport may not be ready by June 30th of 2023. It just depends on when they're ready, but we want to start identifying that and getting people on board that, that we're going to spend a little bit of money to do this. It's not terribly expensive, like Brian's saying. It's basically, kind of a kiosk like the size of that screen, but turned sideways, and it's all touch screen. It's not. It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's, I don't know. What do you remember how much?
5,000 to 10,000 each. Something like that.
So I think it's very doable, and to get people really thinking, about the library as well, when they're flying, and thinking about checking out a travel book. Or
so can they register as a user of the library? Because would we have like guests, or? I'm just thinking, because well,
you can register. You can register online right now for a library card.
Yeah, we just point them at that. So.
Which you would do that. And I think what we've been talking about is talking with some of our content providers about giving us a collection of what would be considered DRM free, digital rights management free. So there's no license attached to it. You can just check out as many copies as there are people. And so, for some folks, they could just download, and they wouldn't necessarily have to have an account.
That's really great idea.
But I wanted to get this in front. Staff's been talking and negotiating on this for a couple of years, but now it's time for the rubber to meet the road. So we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about it.
And so self-checkout is, we wouldn't have somebody at the desk who just check out books. Is that what that is? Like, we already have that.
So
right?
we have the kiosks out there. They're all getting very dated. And so it's time to do a swap on that. And the new ones do a lot more. You can do a lot of advertising through it. You can do a lot of digital signage and those types of things through it, as well as suggested reading. There's a lot of things that ours doesn't do. They do checkouts very well, very, very well. But they don't do anything else for us to promote the library or do anything while somebody's there at the kiosk.
Do we donate our other ones to like a rural library or something, or what do we?
We could do that. Most of them will take the self-checks back that we buy them from. So we don't have to figure out what to do with 100 of these things. But we could do that. So.
It just seems like it would be nice to bless another library versus just.
I mean, yeah,
You probably know other rural libraries that would benefit. I mean, I know.
Only about 100.
There's a lot.
There are 100, he said.
But yeah, the issue, and this is the last time we migrated, the issue that we had was the software, so that you can actually donate the hardware, but then what happens with the software?
They have to go back out and relicense it.
Yeah. And so, and sometimes that becomes the bigger hurdle than the hardware.
Also, are some of the rural libraries not on the RD or IDF?
RFID,
RFID,
yeah, most aren't. Most aren't, but
because you need that to use this.
well, but the units we have right now do barcodes.
Oh, they do barcodes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
They do both.
So that would be the idea on the multi-line. The self-check is about really updating the software and the experience, and things have changed a little bit with what we can do with that. And so, yeah, all of those things would sort of be in that. The thing about the 300, you can see all of those are I keep saying 300, it's 3, the 01 and 03. 01 is the annual budget, the 1 year, 12-month budget. The 03 budget is the capital budget, which can go over fiscal years. And we usually use those for one-time expenses. So you wouldn't do things like put a software service contract in there because you pay it every year. But if you're buying those kiosks for the airport, which hopefully we won't be buying those every year, maybe every 5 years, 6 years, something like that, then that'd be a one-time expense, and you put that in the 03 line. So
what does AMH stand for?
automatic
Material.
Yeah, so it's like a book sorter.
books.
That's what they have at Woodmeath
We have one of
to
those.
return
already.
books. If you've ever watched through the windows, if you've been there,
Mhm.
that's what that is.
The last 3 times I've been there, it's been broken and I haven't been able to use it, so.
They should let us know. So, that's the one we're talking about replacing, is that one.
Because you can't, because in that one, there's no way to drop off your book
Right.
if that's closed.
Correct.
So it's like, we almost need like a little bin, like a book bin for when it's closed, because there's like no place to leave it, not outside, not anywhere.
No, well, on purpose, but it's supposed to be a lot more reliable than it is. So,
It should be.
Yeah.
And actually, we work with a company to actually make it more reliable than what they made it. So yeah, that's the one we're talking about replacing, is that one. So,
It doesn't work like frequently.
yeah.
And what's PC Print and Reservation?
So that's the software that controls all of our public PCs that people come in and use. So sets their time limits, when they sign in, get the filtered access, all of that kind of stuff. And if they print anything, it goes through the print release service. That provides our online print from home also. So there's a couple software providers out there that do that stuff a little bit better than what we have now. So we're kind of shopping that around.
What I do like about that service is it doesn't print automatically. They have to go to the branch and release it to print. So we're not wasting pages.
right.
Yeah, and it's private. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
just sitting there. It's not just sitting there on a printer waiting for somebody to walk up and grab whatever's sitting there. You have to go to the station and release it. So you have to sign in and release it.
And they do pay for the copies.
Yeah, it works very well.
And then the last line, and we include it here, it really comes out of collections. But the research databases and online learning, that's our several hundred research databases that we have online, and we include it here because it's part of the website. It's a big piece of the website. So and we include that here. So that's kind of the tech, data, and electronic resources budget all together.
I see. So our online learning is not like LinkedIn Learning or something like that.
We have
It's-
LinkedIn Learning.
We have LinkedIn for today.
Yep.
Yeah, so the license
Virtual class and a lot of a lot of other things. We have several different learning platforms, tutor.com.
Tutor.com is in
Yeah.
there.
Favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as other content. So things like the Digital Kansas City Star Archive is in there. I can't remember what the Gale database is for starting businesses, but that's in there.
There's several of
Career
those.
Online High Schools. in
Yeah,
there.
Career Online High School.
Yeah,
Just
several of those.
all of that content. I can't remember. The business database that just changed their name.
They do that all the time.
Yeah, I know. No, it's the one that was in Omaha. It's still in Omaha.
Oh, Ref USA?
Ref USA, but now it's called something else.
I don't know.
That's a great database. Demographics now, and so yeah, all of this research and learning is on our website.
There's a couple hundred in there. So
that's where all of that license comes from. So
Yeah.
that's the preliminary technology budget. And like I said, we just wanted to get this in front of you and let you ask some questions about it. Definitely wanted to get the whole KCI kiosk idea in front of you, and wanted an opportunity to do that before next month, which is when you would normally look at it, because we just felt like that was too short a turnaround, particularly with newer members on the committee. So gives you an opportunity to think about it, ask questions, and we keep working on it.
I think it's pretty reasonable providing access to 800,000.
840,000 people.
Yeah.
If we're counting now.
All right. I don't have any questions. Michael, can you see it okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any questions?
No, I'm like Joycelyn. I think it's pretty reasonable considering the amount of people that we're serving. So, and I really like the KCI kiosk piece of that. And I think that'd be really beneficial. So,
Well, I mean, one of the things I was thinking, what
Yep.
you shared about is on the kiosk, it would be really nice if it was a recording so that kids, while they're waiting, could push a button and it would do a recorded story time for them. Because as a mom, you know, waiting in an airport for hours, it would be really nice to have a kind of like a story time on there.
It's
They
not-
advertise, dial a story on there. People can just call in and,
Well, it's
because we do have that.
not like we don't have a whole bunch of story times archived.
Yeah.
That's true too.
I think they can't do that. I think the ones we're looking at can't do that.
Yeah, because I mean, I just think that if it was in an area, you know, of course, it would have to be kind of a space where kids could either sit down and watch it or something, because not everybody remembers and not everybody can afford to have a iPad with their kids and
Right.
you know, things, or maybe they go and I think that if they don't have a device to be able to watch it on a, you know, a kiosk that says, hey, I want to listen to a story or I want to watch something.
No, what I keep envisioning, and they've shown me some pictures of this before, but the last time I was at O'Hare, if you go into, I want to say it's Terminal A, they've got like this big seating area. And well, actually, they've got two areas sort of at the nexus of, I'm sorry, not O'Hare, Midway. In Terminal A and Terminal B, there's two big areas that are just like this sort of field of four seat tables and these restaurants all around. And that's what I keep envisioning this being, is sort of in that general vicinity, which, yeah, I mean, just there with the kids. I mean, you could be eating a sandwich and they could be watching a story time, and you could be potentially charging your phone as well off of that, as well as other locations. And
Or your
then,
iPad that died and your kids are lost.
well, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we're going to Disney World and we don't have I wish I would have checked out a guidebook. Well, you could actually download a guidebook from us if you wanted to. So this was one of the things when some of the council people were complaining about there not being like a Kansas City feeling with some of the stuff. It's like, we're going to be there. I promise. We'll make sure that our Northland libraries are on the screen too. So yeah, what I'd recommend is if you've got questions about this or other things, we'll just let us know. Let me know,
Just one quick thing, and I know you're already thinking about it, Ryan, but when you're looking into the kiosk, some thought to ADA accessibility. For people with hearing or vision issues, or children with hearing or vision issues.
I think most of those, like a lot of the navigation and stuff, all drives from the bottom and everything. So
And we always do that. We do that with our website
Yeah.
too. We actually
Yeah.
send it through ADA for Department of Education. So, Ellie, there were no visitors' comments that you're aware of?
Comments?
Okay, all right. So we are, if there's no
Ready to
visitors'
adjourn?
I'm
comments.
going to adjourn.
Right.
Michael, would you second that? Michael?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, it has
Yeah.
been motioned and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Any abstainers?